This is our stockade, which has taken over 2 years to complete and has taken over 500 locust logs that we were able to get out of the mountains. The story of the stockade, unlike a fort, this definitely wasn't a fort. Back in the late 1700s, Henry Wyden and Adam Sherrill, when they built their cabins here, there were Indians in this area. Although they were friendly at the time, they built stockades around each of their houses, and one year they became unfriendly, and I think they scalped a child. History book talks about everybody ran to the Adam Sherrill stockade. As you can see from my height, these posts, even the gate, are over 10 feet tall, and this gate probably weighs 500 pounds. What I did was I went to Old Fort, North Carolina, where they've done a reconstructed fort, to see how they hang these unusual heavy doors. And we basically copied the same way that they did it by anchoring into concrete in a sleeve, putting a long steel rod in both the top and the bottom, where the main part of the weight of the door is resting on the concrete sleeve at the bottom. I'd hate to say how many hours we spent putting the points on these things. That was quite a lot of wrist work, and we didn't get carpal tunnel because we were lucky. So this particular stockade has the Lowman Davis cabin, which was located about 18 miles northwest of here in the small town of Kaiser, donated by Johnny and Phyllis Lowman, and moved here in 2013. This cabin is fairly unique, and I certainly had more fun doing this cabin because of the history of the inside and the porch. This cabin has steps on both sides of the front porch. Here, instead of windows, you'll find shutters. As you walk in, you'll see a stretcher table, 1800s, and table setting with ironstone. Beautiful set of 6 pine chairs with oak splits all pegged surround the table. A small early 1800 child's high chair is also located at the table. Behind the kitchen table, you'll see a knife box, a coffee grinder, and a little flat hanging cupboard with pewter. And as in all cabins, there's always a handout inside the door talking about the cabin itself, and also a photo album. The fireplace itself, as I was building it, I'd gotten up about 5 feet, and my wife said, gee, they certainly would have had a big open fireplace for open cooking. Rather than take it down and start all over, which would have cost me another 3 or 4 days, I actually brought the fireplace into the room itself, which I'd never done, which afforded a nice place for your books and your clock. On the right side of the fireplace, you'll see a really neat little wooden cutout place for the sad iron. You'll see pot hooks hanging from the right side of the fireplace, along with a early waffle iron. Inside the fireplace, you'll see an early hand-forged crane holding a nice early coffee kettle, and underneath it you'll see a Dutch oven, a coffee pot on a little trivet, a early frying pan, and several pots. And further in, you'll see a chair with a rocking chair with an adjustable candle stand. A work table is located more to the back of the house, but probably the most unique thing in the entire cabin is the sliding half door that opens to the well on the porch, so you actually didn't have to go outside to draw water when you needed water for the cabin. The half door that slides back and forth is kept closed by a large peg. The candle wax acts as a grease for making it easy to slide forward and backwards. An apple peeler is at the floor of the table. Small step-back cupboards noted in the corner. A one-of-a-kind, I've never seen another one, is a curd knife. I do have a metal one, but this is out of wood, located next to the fireplace by the left shutter. On the right side, you will see an early butter churn, a bed warmer, and a log lighter, which is very unique. You soaked it in kerosene. It has its stand, a little tin holder, and it for about 5 minutes soaking in kerosene would light up a huge flame that would start a log fire that was needed in an early morning. One of the interesting things that we have here is called a Goose Wing Axe. Unlike the broad wing, it swings backwards, and it definitely is earlier than the broad axe, dating usually in the 1700s. And if you go across the room to the rope bed, you'll find a trundle bed underneath it. In the back corner is another real unusual piece. It's a corner washstand. And one of the rarest pieces here is also a cradle for twins. Most unusual thing about the crib is it's made for two, and they're not side by side, they're end on end. Behind the door as you come in is a linen press on wheels, said to have been made in this county. It is interesting the fact that it's easily pushed by a child or a mother to cover the back of a door for security. Another different aspect of this cabin is the stairwell is encased with a rope instead of a handrail. Be careful coming up the stairs, they're rather steep. As you come up, you'll see a little blanket chest with wooden hinges and rose head nails, which is appropriate for that date of late 1700s. There also is a single rope bed, a double rope bed, a small single rope bed, and a rope bed that would accommodate at least 3 or 4 children. The back wall has a small washstand with a lantern, and you'll see another blanket chest and several quilts, and a demi-lune table at the front part of the cabin with an early wallet and chair and candlestick and an early basket. The demi-lune means a half of a moon in Latin, so it's a half of a round table. If you go outside, you'll see a well bucket by the well with the original well top. Actually, we hand dug the well, and it's rock lined, and we actually hit water at about 6 to 8 feet. If it's real dry, it will dry up, but if it stays rainy or wet, as you look into the well, people have said it's as deep as 8 to 30 feet. It gives you a reflection from the water through the top of the well top. And as you get ready to exit, you'll notice a washboard and a wash stick, besides several hides that were skinned, and a trap. The heart-shaped board hanging on the lower part is a boot jack. This particular cabin was tied up in an estate for a number of years, and it was almost like the Hatfield and McCoys. There was finally, the deed was granted to the Lowmans, and we went in with a deputy sheriff and a judge and the papers to allow us to go in to get it. There was, from the history, been even an exchange of gunfire. Well, when I went to go in to get it, the owner had cut down at least a 6-foot oak tree in diameter, huge. It took 4 of us with chainsaws probably an hour or 2 to remove just to get access to the road to the cabin. And interesting enough, the Lowman said I needed to move it that day or it would probably be burned that night. So with 2 trailers, we moved everything, and I ended up with a tractor that was, we had no way to take it home. So I came back, was going to come back the next day, and Mr. Lowman had a friend about a half mile down the road that allowed me to leave it there till the next day. But when I parked it, the man said, that guy was pretty neat guy. That had been in a feud for 20 or 30 years, and he said with a fifth of liquor, he probably wouldn't have any problem going back to get whatever you needed. And the steps I hadn't gotten, a few of the rocks. So we went back the next day, and he said, Doc, if I'd known what you were doing, I'd even helped you take it down. You know, what we normally use is scaffolding, and of course I've collected odd pieces here and there, and sometimes it gets pretty raggedy, and on several occasions I got up and it started swinging with the wind, and I'd have to anchor it to a rope to a couple trees, and hopefully not have happened what happened on me on the Knoll House, where I fell about 15 feet and ended up in surgery for about 3 hours. The adjoining structure is a smokehouse. Both the smokehouse and the outhouse came from Jacob Weaver, one of the first, if not the first potter in Catawba County. And hanging on the side of the smokehouse is a long-looking wooden anchor called a cow anchor. Now remember, you back in the back part of the country, no fences, and you got a milk cow, and if you let him go out and graze, he might get lost. So what you did was you put a cowbell on him and put the cow anchor with a rope, say a 6, 8 foot rope, and he could drag it along. If he got too far, he'd get tangled up in the woods, and you could hear him with trying to break through the whatever he was hooked to, and it'll ring the bell, and you know where he is when you're ready to bring him home at night. The outhouse I'm coming through is a 2-holer. Originally had hand-forged horseshoe hinges. Great story. A second cousin of mine, my daddy's first cousin that I'd never known, in her 90s, who was a professor and doctor at Morris Hill College, called me and told me the history. You know, she had seen my book, and I'm Robert W. Hart III. Of course, my daddy was junior. So she put 2 and 2 together and called me. So I hadn't met her. I invited her down for the festival last year. Brought her up here and in the golf cart, talking to her on the porch here by the house. And she said, "Is the outhouse usable?" She said, "I've used many of them." I said, "Sure, I keep them all. I go to the closest one when I'm working at it. I never go to the main one in town because it's right here. And I probably got eight outhouses in the village." So she walks out, closes the door, and both hinges break. 100 people or more inside during the festival. She lets the door fall, or drops it, drops the skirt, walks out as if nothing had happened. And everybody cracked up. Didn't faze her in the least.